Welcome to episode 6 of Bald Bets and Beyond, presented by Oddshark. I am Kris Abbott, one half of the Bald Bets and Beyond team, and I'm joined by Harry Gagnon, who is back from London, England. Harry, you were traversing the world with some of our compadres here at Oddshark, man. How was it all? Tell me everything.
Oh, dude, we had a blast. Everybody was great. We banged out plenty of video. We had fun all over the place. Went to a couple soccer games, went to a couple bars that involved the soccer teams that were playing. We obviously went to Bears Raiders on Sunday, which was a blast as well. Couple things, you don't notice or didn't know. And this morning I did Outkick the coverage with Clay Travis again, and he went to London last year when the Titans played. And we discussed a couple things this morning about what goes on over there in London in these soccer games. And we saw the first night, me and the guys, by the way, everyone, again, great, had a great time with everybody. But boy, I tell you what, that Alec, by the way,
yeah,
he's a wild man. Just want to let you know. He's the
young guy, right? He's the whippersnapper of the group.
He's the young guy. He was, you wouldn't tell, but he was party animal central. Wild man.
I got to hear some more. Something that won't get him in too much trouble. You got to tell me more about Alec.
Oh, well, I didn't see it coming, put it that way.
Well,
anyway,
I tell you, I've worked with him at Oddshark, and we actually worked together at a television station before we both came here. And I've seen Alec in some interesting states.
He was not this season though. Everybody was fantastic. It was great, but it was weird though. First night we went to Arsenal. They played Standard Liège, and they beat them 4-0. And we're trying to have maybe a pint beforehand, and you couldn't get into the bar unless because they had bouncers there. You had to have a ticket to the game. B, the bouncers know the stadium. They looked at your tickets. They actually looked at your tickets to see where your seats were. If you were in the visiting team section, they would not let you in the bar.
And that's not a bar that's just a bar in the area?
Just bars in the area that obviously the Arsenal fans are at. And just for whatever reason, they probably want to keep things under control. But that was interesting. Also that night, we also found out that once the game starts, you cannot bring alcohol into the game itself. You have to wait till halftime.
Oh my God. But I thought that's what the whole thing was partying and singing and dancing. And
it is beforehand, but not during the game. But then which makes it really strange, at halftime, we come back out, go to the bathroom, chat about the game, maybe get a drink, and the beer is free. Kris, at halftime, the beer was free. They had beer already lined up. People are just chugging 2, 3 at a time because once the second half starts, no more drinking again. I mean, that's almost like an oxymoron, isn't it?
Yeah, I thought.
You're not drinking, you're drinking, you're not drinking.
So was the beer free because of the seats that you had, or is that just how it works?
That was just how it worked. It was for everybody. It was something else, When we had the game later on, when we went to the West Ham Crystal Palace game, we were in a lounge area where the beer was free beforehand. We had a couple there. What a great game that was. Great atmosphere. Crystal Palace was plus 300 on the money line to win the game straight up, and they did it. That was wild. So we had a blast at those games, and same thing, Bears Raiders. Great game. Atmosphere. We interviewed a lot of people that are fans all over the place from all over the world dressed in their NFL jerseys. We got a lot of interesting people we met, needless to say, and even somebody like me and Joe Osborne and Andrew, a part of the team, walking by, some guy starts yelling my name, which was pretty wild. Fan of Against All Odds with Cousin Sal, and he just recognized me out of the crowd, so we interviewed him. He was a big Bears fan, so thanks a lot, Jazz, for recognizing us and recognizing me and being a fan of both Against All Odds and Bald Bets and Beyond. It was great, Kris. Also, betting parlors there, I do have to say this, though, for the betting parlors, they suck. They suck. They have employees in there that they don't know how a parlay works. They've never heard of the word parlay. They call it an accumulator. I tried to make a couple bets. They didn't know what over-unders were. So I didn't make one single bet over there, but a couple of our guys that did come along did hit a couple bets, so I was happy for them.
So you probably use an online site to make bets, but you couldn't access it while you were there, could you?
No, not really.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it was okay. I mean, I had a couple of stuff put in beforehand, but still it was very interesting. But the people, were great that we met along the way. The West Ham fans were wild. It was at the bar beforehand. It was and afterwards as well. They, don't say soccer to them. Just a little heads up if you ever go over there. It is football over there to them. Do not say soccer.
It's always football. Listen, there's got to be a couple of standout stories that are going to stay with you, going forward that you'll never forget about this trip. And I want you to share them with me and share them with everyone who's listening.
Yeah, I won't use this woman's name, but then before the game at the West Ham game, we were just sitting down having a little something to drink, and then all of a sudden, these West Ham fans start filing in outside in the area where you can smoke and drink, and it was interesting. I met this one woman. She's about mid-50s, and she's telling me about. We're telling her and her friends who we are and what we're doing there. And she's just telling me that she loves to gamble. She plays, when she goes to Vegas, she loves roulette. She loves blackjack. At home there, she's showing me her fantasy soccer team lineup it's for money, her fantasy hockey team for money that she's in. She's showing me ponies that she bets on there in London. She's telling me that she has a bookie. And I'm like, oh, nice. Well, yeah, I have a bookie. You got to have a nickname, right? And she's like, for your bookie? She's like, yeah, I do. And I said, what is it? She tells me her bookie's nickname that she calls him is Twat. Now,
why?
Pretty much because he's an asshole. So, yeah. So in return, he calls her Tinkerbell. So I found that to be hilarious, Meanwhile, she's buying me drinks. We were having a lovely time. I didn't want to leave.
That's amazing. And the betting is really just a part of the culture there, right? Like, you see on all the games you watch, whether it's hockey or soccer, football, you see betting advertisements, not only on the, the boards or around the stadium, but on the uniforms. Like, it's just what people do, right?
It was wild. Yeah. I mean, that they're really not from what I spoke to a lot of people, Chris. They're not really into betting the NFL. They just really aren't, even though it's available there. It's still the soccer / football for them. That's what they're into. I get it. And they love the players, but American football betting over there doesn't seem to be that prevalent.
So do they bet on just their team, or they definitely don't bet on their team, or they look for a good spot? How does it work?
It seems like they do bet their team because they are such fans. I mean, it is just it's life or death for them. It really is, However, I probably shouldn't be saying this because I could probably get this woman into trouble because she whispered in my ear, even though all those West Ham fans are crazy West Ham fans, she told me that she had a feeling Crystal Palace was going to upset them. And that's what happened.
And she was right. Wow.
Right.
Wow. So you guys go to the soccer games, and it's crazy. The atmosphere is nuts. And you go to the NFL London game, Chicago and Oakland. And we had like the under going into that game. Maybe Chicago on the spread, and went completely the other way.
Yeah, Joe Osborne and I we were on the under, and we sat next to each other during the game. We had a blast. It was good times, and we're trying to map out how things are going in the game. It was 0-0 after the first. We felt really good about that. Couple turnovers, long punt returns, sort of killed us in the second quarter where the Raiders put up 17 points, but the Bears still at halftime only had like 44 yards of total offense. So I think we still were feeling pretty good at 17 points at halftime. Then the Bears just come out and put up 3 touchdowns. Bing, bing, bing. Couple things happen. Turnover, big plays for the Bears. They turned things around. Allen Robinson had a big game. He had 2 touchdowns for the Bears. That was one of my plays on that Sunday where I had him over 4.5 receptions. That was a winner for the weekend. And it was 21-17, and I had Bears money line and under, and Joe had under in the game himself. And all the Bears had to do is stop the Raiders one more time, since the Raiders had burned their timeouts early in the second half. At 21-17, that would have been beautiful. Carr let them downfield, got that touchdown at the end, and we lost that. A lot of things could have happened to make that game go under. But you know what? 58 minutes of the under we had. We lost in the last 2 minutes, but what an experience.
Yeah, no, it's obviously always get let down when you're betting, right? I got let down by the Jags this week. They didn't cover. I got let down by the Cowboys who didn't cover. The 49ers beat the Browns. I didn't cover that game, so that was tough for me. I'm now 8-17 in the circa. I'm 9-16 in the Bet Online contest. I'm an also ran at this point, barring a complete turnaround. But over in the Golden Nugget contest, you had a good week, I think.
I'm hanging. I was 4-2-1 last week, tied for 21st out of 282 entries. I was 4-1-1, had the Browns plus 3.5 on Monday night. I had a feeling that wasn't going to go well. When I sat down with the guys Monday morning for breakfast, I saw the line was up to 5. I was only getting 3.5 in the contest. So I just had a bad feeling, and I want to like Baker Mayfield, but he keeps talking and not getting it done on the field. It's just exhausting at this point, I mean, enough already. Get it done on the field. You haven't done anything yet, but they're a team that's just up and down to what they did against Baltimore the week before, and then this laying of an egg on Monday night. It's tough, I did, like I said, I was 4-2-1, tied for 21st. My tie, I can't complain. I had West Virginia plus 11. Texas let West Virginia go down the field. It was 4th and 10 from the 12 with 10 seconds to go. And it's not on TV anywhere, so I'm watching it on my phone, updating, refreshing. And then Texas allows West Virginia to score a touchdown on 4th and 10 from the 12. I'm just saying, you know what? Kick the extra point. Don't go for 2. I'll take a half a point. That's what they did. So 4-2-1 for the week, tied for 21st. I'll take that. And I'm only 1.5 points back of second place.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's fantastic. Tied for 21st through 6 weeks of college, 5 weeks of the NFL. There's some games that we both liked this week. But before we move on to this week, we'll talk a little bit about last week. I like the Bills all week. They covered. I like the Saints all week. They covered. 3 of my 4 big hogs hit. Boston College and Northwestern joining the Bills there. Missed out on the Giants-Jets teaser. You had the other side of that. You liked Minnesota in that game. You were right. Mm-hmm. But maybe the one that stood out the most to me was your big Patrick Cantlay hit, the PGA, Harry. And it wasn't even a sweat.
Never in doubt, right?
Unbelievable.
Top 10 at plus 110. That was my best bet, actually, in Against All Odds, too, which I took a lot of heat from Sal and Brother Bry from, because who's betting golf in Las Vegas? Well, I am. And at plus 110, Cantlay was a lock. He was either in the lead or in second the entire tournament. He ended up losing it in a playoff to Kevin Na. But at plus 110, he was solid in top 10.
That's beautiful. What else did you hit? You had a bunch on the shows in London.
Yeah, you know what? I did do a teaser. I went Florida plus 10 on a teaser with Georgia Tech plus 17.5 on a 7-point teaser. I really liked Florida in this game. I like the way the backup quarterback's been playing for Florida. I think this was a game where Auburn was coming in hot. The line stayed at 3, then it went to 2.5, and I thought at 2.5, a lot of people would be all over Auburn, thinking the way they've been playing. But still, I like Florida here because Florida had, like I had mentioned, 4-0, I believe, their last 4 games at home as an underdog. They've won straight up and against the spread, played really good, played solid defense, only gave up 13 points. I got fortunate with Georgia Tech plus 17.5. They lost by 16. They scored a late touchdown, which was nice. Checking my phone, checking Andrew's phone the whole time because I had no juice left in my phone. He was rooting for me, so we got that touchdown late for Georgia Tech loses by 16, getting 17.5. And I want a teaser on the show with me and you. I gave out Oregon State and Stanford, but I also with Joe on Saturday. I gave out both those with the points. Oregon State plus 6, quarterback Jake Luton, 6'7" all of them, nine touchdowns, 0 picks for the season. Said he was going to lead the way to beating UCLA. UCLA shouldn't be a favorite. Can't trust them at all. The guy had 5 touchdowns, and they rolled UCLA. And Stanford is a 16-point underdog, won straight up by double digits. So that was nice. That's 6 straight wins for the Cardinal at home against the Huskies in Palo Alto.
Wow. Okay, that's a good number. So last week went really well. Let's stick with our underdogs then and go right into big hogs and underdogs here for this week. I don't have a college underdog this week. Do you?
I don't have a college I do have a college underdog. I take that back. It is Syracuse. Of course, it's my Syracuse Orange. Now that I recall, plus 4.5. They're at NC State. Syracuse is 10-4 against the spread in their last 14 on the road. They're 3-0 against the spread in their last 3 games at NC State. Tristan Jackson, their wide receiver, has been a pleasant surprise for the Orange. He's got 5 touchdowns this year for the Orange, and quarterback Tommy DeVito. So they've been hooking up pretty good. And also NC State is only 2-6 against the spread in their last 8 against the ACC. So I like Syracuse here on the road again in NC State to cover the plus 4.5.
There's one that I kind of like, and it's Colorado at Oregon, but I've got a better bet for that, so I'm going to keep it out of my big hogs and underdogs picks. But they're getting 21 points on the road at Oregon, and Colorado's offense has been pretty good, and Oregon hasn't really been tested all that much. But I'll get into my play for that a little bit later. I do have a couple of underdogs that I really like in the NFL. Teddy Bridgewater is 3-0 straight up and against the spread since taking over as the quarterback in New Orleans. They go to Jacksonville as plus 1.5 underdogs. And this one just doesn't make sense to me right now. Jacksonville have gotten a couple of big games out of Leonard Fournette, but the New Orleans rush defense has really, really stepped up the last couple of weeks, especially shutting down Ezekiel Elliott. The secondary has shut down both Jameis Winston and Dak Prescott over the last couple of weeks. So I'm rolling with the Saints here, going in and forcing Gardner Minshew to beat them. I really, really like that play. It's one of my favorites.
All right. Yeah, I like that a little bit too. Minshew played pretty good last week. Had 2 touchdowns, no picks, but he did have a couple fumbles too, so which cost them late in not covering that spread. So I could see that definitely.
Okay, how about you?
You know what? I like the Texans plus 5, Chris, at Kansas City. Look, the Texans are 8th in total yards in the NFL. They lit up Atlanta last week at home with 52 points, and that was without DeAndre Hopkins doing basically anything. He had like 88 yards. He's way overdue for a bust-out game. The visiting team in this matchup is 5-1 against the spread in their last 6 games versus each other. Texans are 4-0-1 against the spread as a road dog in the last 5. And just Kansas City isn't right. Mahomes only has 1 touchdown pass in the last 2 games. He was only 22 of 39 versus Indy passing the ball. KC only had 36 yards rushing. And in back-to-back weeks, the Colts' Marlon Mack had 132 yards on the ground, and Detroit's Kerryon Johnson had 125 on the ground in a game where KC was extremely fortunate to win. I'll roll with the Texans with 5 points here, since we now know Mahomes is not invincible at home.
Yeah, I think, too, for Mahomes, he's also, the personnel might be starting to catch up to him. He doesn't really have a dominant running back. He's really missing Tyreek Hill. Sammy Watkins has been
hurt, right?
Yeah, so, you know, as good as he made a couple of the receivers look early on, there's a reason that they were deep on the depth chart, I think. And it's been trouble for Patrick Mahomes the last couple of weeks.
Oh, they were very fortunate to beat Detroit. I like the way Detroit's playing. In this game here, I mean, I know it's a toss up with the Texans. You never know what you're going to get out of Bill O'Brien in this team, but maybe they can put 2 games in a row together, and I like the points here. Yeah,
I don't mind over in this game either, but a couple of secondaries that have been getting abused.
I will say this: when I woke up the next morning, Monday morning, because that game was played late when we were in London, I could not believe what I saw for a score. I actually needed with Joe. I had the Vikings on a teaser with that game to go over, and I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
I was blown away when I saw that final score.
Oh, the Colts. Yeah, for sure. No, it's
Yeah.
and the Colts are sneaky good, man. The Jacoby Brissett is fit right in. And I said this to somebody else earlier this week. Like, they said when Andrew Luck retired, we're still a good football team, and they're a good offensive line. They've got a good defense, and they've got playmakers on offense. Yes, Jacoby Brissett is not Andrew Luck, but he's not terrible. And
going into that game, he had 10 touchdowns and only 2 picks. Take that anytime.
Absolutely. And those were a big hog and underdog. I don't know how many people had them at plus 11, but it looked pretty good. Okay, for my other NFL underdog, I like the Arizona Cardinals plus 2.5, plus 3 at some places against the Atlanta Falcons. So this is just two teams going in opposite directions, Harry. Atlanta, I think things are going to get worse before they get better. Their coach could be on the way out. And on the other side of things, you've got Cliff Kingsbury and Kyler Murray kind of figuring it out. Kyler Murray starting to use his legs a little bit more. They've been pretty good at home. And you just can't.
First W.
What's that?
They got their first W.
Exactly. They're kind of getting things out of the way as they go. You know what I mean? They're 3-2 against the spread. Falcons are 1-4 straight up and against the spread. And I just don't think Atlanta can be trusted. Their defense is absolutely god awful. And I think Kyler Murray and the Arizona offense could have a really big day here. So I'm going to take them on the spread. I might even like them on the money line.
That's a good play. I mean, I'd like to see David Johnson get a little more running yards running the ball than he does. He gets a lot of passes. I'd like to see them establish some sort of running game instead of just having Murray have to take off running. Mm-hmm. But still, we just mentioned, they did get the win under their belts. And now back here, Atlanta is a mess. And I was really actually also surprised Monday morning that Dan Quinn wasn't actually fired.
Yeah, maybe it's coming this week. But, you brought up the Lions, and I think they might be a pretty good option to cover on Monday night. Now, I didn't delve too deep into it, but as much as I think Matt Patricia is a weirdo, he is coming off a bye week. The Lions are 6-1 straight up and against the spread in their last 7 games after a bye, including winning and covering under Matt Patricia last year. Plus 4.5, they've been pretty good. And, I think if they can devise a plan to shut down Aaron Rodgers, he's had 2 weeks to do it, them covering isn't out of the realm of possibility here.
Oh, I think they win this game. They take control of the NFC North, and I think it's something they can do. Their defense has been fantastic. They beat Philadelphia on the road. Matthew Stafford has 9 touchdowns. He's got 2 picks. He's hooking up with Holiday. Kerryon Johnson, I said last game, had his best game as a pro with 125 yards on the ground. This is something that can be done. I mean, Green Bay did look really special against Dallas, and they finally got their offense really clicking. The running game was good, but Aaron Rodgers didn't have to do much anyways. Jones did everything for him. But if Detroit can go in there and steal this game on Monday night, people should be talking about the Lions a little more than they are right now.
Yeah, I'm with you. Okay, one more NFL game that I like before I get into some college favorites and totals that I like. I think I do like the Texans Chiefs over to a degree. It's at 55. It'd be awful hard to bet under in this game the way those two guys have the ability to sling the ball. So that's one play I like. Any other NFL plays you like this weekend?
I do like on Thursday, tomorrow night, I do like the Pats Giants to go under 42. The Pats defense, obviously we know it's been unbelievable. One of the greatest of all times as of right now, this 5 weeks into the season. They've given up 3-0, 14, 10, and 7. And those 14 was the Jets, where the Jets got a late pick 6 and the fumble recovery in the end zone on a punt. So that was something. The Giants also have plenty of injuries. Barkley's been ruled out. Evan Ingram is out. Sterling Shepard is out. So they really don't have a lot of weapons to go here. Wayne Gallman may not be able to play. He had a concussion last week. If he can't, third-string running back John Hillman, who's undrafted, is going to go. He's averaging 2.8 yards a carry. Not good. Linebacker for the Patriots, Jamie Collins Sr., has been leading this team. He's got 27 tackles. He's got 3 picks, 1 for a touchdown. And the under has hit the last 3 out of 4 times these two teams have played. I just don't see a lot of offense for the Giants. I don't want that. I don't want to see. I don't think they want to be embarrassed here. They may just concede because they have no weapons here right now. And don't want to throw Jones under the bus. Maybe this is something like the Patriots win 27, something like that, and the game stays under.
Yeah, I mean, the Giants come out on Wednesday and basically say all of our playmakers are not playing in this game. So yeah. I don't know where they're scoring. I just don't see it. And their defense has been okay. But I think I'm with you. You know, I think we'll see another game where the Patriots have their long, sustained drives, getting 4 and 5 yards per play, bring it down the field, get their points, get out of there safely.
Yeah, I think the Vikings could have scored a lot more against the Giants last week. The Giants did play great against the Redskins the week before defensively, but before that, they were giving up 31 points a game through the first 3 games. So hopefully as a Giants fan, this doesn't turn real ugly, but and hopefully Belichick puts the reins down on the Patriots offense and doesn't pound the Giants too bad. But I do like under here.
Well, he did put the clamps down against both the Jets and the Dolphins, so I would expect it might happen again. Remember, they were not scoring anything against the Dolphins. They had a couple of pick sixes, what got them the spread cover at the end of it. So it seems to be what he's been doing this season. Okay, anything else in the NFL?
That's what I got.
Okay,
I'm good.
Let's go to college then. I was talking about the Colorado game. The reason that I'm not going to take them plus 21 on the spread is that I'm taking their team total over 17.5. I think the Oregon defense is being completely overrated here, as they've not had anyone to play against. So they're only allowing something like 9.5 points per game. And I think that Colorado is going to be one of the better offenses that they face. So when I look at Oregon's schedule so far, they played Cal, they allowed 7 points. They played Stanford, they allowed 6 points. And that's, they're not two really high octane offensive teams. Then, they trounced Montana and Nevada, but they allowed 27 against Auburn in week 1. On the other side, Colorado's played Arizona, they got 30. They played Arizona State, they got 34. 23 against Air Force, 34 against Nebraska, 52 against Colorado State. So to think that they'd be kept under 17.5 here, I think might be wrong. I think they get to this number. That's what I'm going with there.
All right, nice. I can see that absolutely. I like I like here, Chris. In the Michigan State Wisconsin game, I know it's risky taking a college game with a low total on the under, but I do like under 40 here. Seems a little too low, a little fishy. So I'm going to stay with it. I'm going to stay with the under here. Michigan State held Ohio State to 34 points last week, which is actually an accomplishment for what Ohio State's been doing against everyone else they've been playing this year. 4 of the 6 games the Spartans have been in this year, there's been under 44 points. Wisconsin is 23rd in the country running the ball. The last 2 times these two teams have met, the game has gone under. And through 5 games this year, the Wisconsin defense has given up a total of 29 points. Now, I know that's happened against some cupcakes still, but for 5 games, 29 points. And Michigan State's played good defense too. They lost at home to Arizona State. That game was like 10-7. So I think Michigan State has confidence in what they did against Ohio State last week. And I think this is a grind. I could see this game being a 20-10 game.
Yeah, and that's why a lot of those reasons why I like Wisconsin minus 10.5 here. I think you're right. I think it is going to be low scoring, but I think Wisconsin's got enough there to get the points that they need. And I think more importantly, the one thing that stood out to me is that Michigan State is allowing more yards per game on the ground than Michigan is. And we saw what Wisconsin did to Michigan on the ground. So I think I'm thinking the same thing as you, maybe like a 21-7, maybe a 24-10, something like that. But whatever it is, gets Wisconsin the cover. And I just think Michigan State's offense is going to struggle in this one.
Yeah, 8 of the last 11 have gone under for Wisconsin, and 5 of the last 7 for Wisconsin conference game. I think, they've established a little bit of a lead, like you just said. And again, maybe like 23-7, 23-10. They can cover, and the game still goes under.
All right. I'm going to lay the points with Alabama. I know you hate this, but minus 16.5, minus 17. This is the lowest spread they've seen all season. They're going up against Texas A&M. They handled A&M last season. The offense for Alabama is going to score. And I think, their defense will get tested by Kellen Mond. But I think when you look head-to-head, these two offenses here, Alabama is number 3 in the nation. I think number 43 is for something like that with Texas A&M. So I just think Alabama's going to be able to score their way out of this spread. So I'm going to take that there. I'm also going to take Wake Forest -6.5 at home against Louisville. Wake Forest has been an excellent spread bet this season, and I look for them to continue that at home. And then a couple of big games. Notre Dame is -11. LSU's -13.5. I'm going to tease both of them down. Notre Dame to what? Inside 6. LSU down to about 7, and tease those. I think LSU is going to give Florida a bit of a wake-up call, but I am a little nervous with Florida at the 13.5 number, so that's why I'm including them there.
All right, I do have a money line parlay. This does pay 3.5 to 1. I do have the Vikings at -140. Cousins, like I said, he had almost 300 yards at halftime last week against the Giants. He beat Philly on the road last year. Philly's only 25th in the NFL in total offense. So at home, the Vikings have been great. I'm going to take the Vikings at -140. I'm going to take the Panthers -130 on the money line in London as they play Tampa Bay. Carolina is 3-0 straight up in the last 3 on the road. And average of victory has been 14 over that. So I think Tampa loses again on the road here. I'm going to take Iowa State -420 on the money line. Quarterback Brock Purdy has 6 touchdowns in his last 5 quarters. I think they take care of business. And LSU, like you just mentioned, you like them. I like them too at -500 on the money line. LSU is 6-1 against the spread in the last 7. I think just to win the game should be solid at home, especially since I just said Florida had their game last week against Auburn. That was their big game. Joe Burrow is a star, 22 touchdowns, 3 picks this year. He's got 3 different receivers he's thrown 6 or more touchdowns to, where Florida doesn't have a receiver that has more than 3. So I think this is to just take money line here is a steal. So at -500. So again, Vikings -140, Panthers -130, Iowa State -420, LSU -500, pays 3.5 to 1.
Yeah, I definitely like the Carolina pick there. I'm hesitant with the Vikings because Philly's got the potential to score, and Minnesota don't know what you're going to get. But we've talked about it before. Minnesota at home has been a different team in a good way. So
at home, Chris, they're 2-0, and they've outscored their opponents by 18 points at home.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And Philadelphia's got some injury trouble as well. So
sure.
The spread is at 3 in that game. Minnesota the favorite. Making the money line looks good to me. Now, you were just talking about Joe Burrow, who's right now number 3 on the Heisman odds table, but you wanted to talk NFL MVP a little bit?
Well, just, I'm looking at I was looking at different odds yesterday, and a lot of different sites. You can get different odds. I don't know if you've scoped it out. I mean, I've seen Russell Wilson at 3 to 1. I've also seen him at 10 to 1.
Yeah, I've seen him at 8, I think, today somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah. And, talking fantasy, I'm 3-2 in fantasy this year. He's my quarterback, and he's been saving me. He's been great. He's got 14 total touchdowns. He's got 0 picks. 6 of those touchdowns have been in the fourth quarter. And he's making guys like Will Dissly, DK Metcalf, and Tyler Lockett household names when it comes to fantasy. I picked up Dissly. He's been great for me. It's a nice 1-2 combo, him and Wilson. So I think if you can find him at 10 to 1, I mean, stats like that. If Brady had those stats, Brady would be ahead of Mahomes in the MVP voting. Mahomes also 1 touchdown the last 2 weeks. He's been injured a little bit. It's something to look at if you can get 10 to 1, like you even said, 8 to 1, maybe even still on Russell Wilson. And I have seen as high as 100 to 1 for Matthew Stafford. Now I know I made a little case, and you did too, about the Lions maybe beating Green Bay. If they do beat Green Bay, I know this is a shot, Chris, but if they do beat Green Bay, and it's because of Stafford, and he leads them to victory at the end, and he has, say, 3 touchdowns and no picks, that would put him at 12 touchdowns, 2 picks for the season. Detroit would be in first place. Be something to think about.
I think what else that tells us is that the NFC and the MVP races are both wide open right now. Like, The New England Patriots are the best team in the league and in the AFC, and they're most likely going to be in the Super Bowl. But it's kind of wide open as to who's going to be there with them.
Yeah, because offensively, I mean, Patriots, I know people are talking maybe 16-0. I get it. You know what? But offensively, no one stands out. There's no big numbers there.
Mm-hmm.
They haven't put big numbers up. So again, you got Mahomes, but you also got other guys that are having good seasons that you can talk about for that.
Like a Christian McCaffrey, his odds are steadily creeping closer to even. I think he's about 8-1 now. He was 11-1 yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, again, a guy who I've loved this year, and that's the reason why I took the Vikings last week, was Dalvin Cook. He had 225 total yards against the Giants. If he continues to put up monster numbers like this, and he leads the Vikings to the NFC North Division Championship, and they do something special along the way in the second half of the season, and Cousins is doing mediocre, but they're winning because of Cook, you can look at a running back there too. And McCaffrey definitely in the NFC South, but also in the North, you can look at Cook.
It's gonna be fun to watch, man. Okay, all right. You had a winning golf pick last week. You got any golf picks this week? Is there there a tournament this week?
There is a tournament. There is. It's the Shell Houston Open.
Oh, okay.
And So and I'm gonna go with a guy who didn't have a great season last year, but Daniel Berger. I'm gonna take at even money to be in the top 20. He finished in the top 20 last week in Vegas. Week before in Napa, he finished in the top 25. Good start of the season for him. In 2016, Daniel Berger placed 5th in this tournament. In 17, he also finished 5th. And in 18, he finished 18th. So for the top 20, you can get even money at Daniel Berger for the Houston Open. That's my play in the golf this week.
Wow. Deep diving on the Houston Open with a guy I've never even heard of. We're gonna have to go out for a round of 18 or something. I'll teach you a few things about golf, pal. Well, I know golf. I've played golf. I can get around a course, but I'm not familiar with like some of the depth guys on tour, and I don't know that I've ever heard of Daniel Berger.
Oh man, wait till I start ripping off some guys in the European tour. Just wait.
All right. Okay, before we finish with football, just some games that I'm not interested in betting at all this week. Clemson -27 against Florida State. Florida State started off obviously very, very slow, but they've gotten a little bit better. And I don't trust this Clemson team. I don't trust your boy Dabo.
Oh, I hear you too. I mean, it's just all of a sudden now you don't know what you're going to get out of this Clemson team. I can't trust them either.
Michigan -23. I know after the beatdown against Wisconsin, they came out and put it on Rutgers. But I'm not laying 23 points with Michigan any day this season. And I don't know. This Ravens -11.5, that's a little bit sneaky to me. I don't trust them to cover, but I don't trust the Bengals to cover either. So I think I got to leave that game alone.
I hear, statistically, the in this matchup, the Bengals have been very good against the Ravens over the past 11 times they played, I think. The Bengals are 8-3 against the spread against the Ravens. Ravens had a tough game last week against Pittsburgh, and the week before, no one saw that game against the Browns coming. So, yeah, it's very tough to ride the Ravens.
Well, Joe actually gave the Bengals out as a pick on Guys and Bets on the YouTube show earlier today. This is Wednesday as we're recording this. So he likes that as a play this weekend. He just thinks that Baltimore's still overrated. They haven't really done much since week 1. They've only covered one spread this year. So it's a pretty big number for a team that's only covered one spread.
Yeah, definitely. Even in the second half, I think against Arizona at home, they only scored 6 points and didn't cover that game either.
No, exactly. Any games you are not interested in at all?
I'm not interested in the Broncos game at home against the Titans.
Oh yeah.
The Broncos have zapped me a couple times this year, and I'm consistently wrong with the Titans. I cannot get their games correct. Opening week. Me and you both sort of liked them, like the Browns against the Titans. That was bad. I didn't see I thought the Bills were going to lose last week to them. They still played great defense. The Bills did, and they took them down. I just can't. I can't take either side here. I mean, I can't go with Flacco either, even though Patrick Lindsay has been putting up a good show and running the ball hard and strong for the Broncos. I can't take this game either way.
All right. Anything else you really won't be interested in, or is that it?
That's it. But again, I agree with you too about the Michigan game. I can't lay the points with them. They've really disappointed me this season, and I can't have Michigan in any game because I think their season is shot.
All right. I know you've been traveling during the NHL season opening and maybe haven't had a chance to bet it or follow along that much. But I'm up a little bit on NHL betting. Maybe got carried away with a couple of picks, but it's interesting. And the biggest thing to me is some teams that were bad last year are getting really undervalued. The Edmonton Oilers won as a plus 140 underdog last night against the New York Islanders, who aren't as good as they were. The Buffalo Sabres are off to a pretty good start. They're at home to Montreal tonight, minus 120. I've got them there because I don't think Montreal is all that hot, and Keith Kincaid is starting in place of Carey Price. And the Anaheim Ducks are 3-0, which is very, very surprising to me. Have you had a chance to follow along with any of the NHL yet?
A little bit. I think tomorrow, Chris, me and my pal are going to hit Glendale, Arizona for the Coyotes versus the Golden Knights. He went to the home opener, told me it's kind of disappointing as they lost 1-0 to Boston. Their opening game of the season, they lose 2-1 to the Ducks. You just mentioned about Anaheim playing well. Little disappointing that the Coyotes are off to an 0-2 start. They've got 1 goal in 2 games. But again, like I had mentioned to you before too, those five teams that are in the Eastern Conference where I like when they play each other, I like to go over in the total. And as of right now, I think that if you were to bet it every game so far, you'd be 4-1.
Well, I've already got the over locked in for LA, Vancouver, New Jersey, Philadelphia tonight. Some people are saying that you should also bet the over in Montreal and Buffalo, and I tend to agree, but I also like Buffalo on the money line there. I've also put a very, very small parlay on the first period over in all 3 of those games. But looking at tomorrow night's Arizona-Vegas game, you've got the Coyotes are plus 130, total at 5.5. It looks like a good spot for an under. The Coyotes were one of the best under bets in the league last year.
Yeah,
and I'm just
they were number 1 in the league in the penalty kill last year. So yeah,
and both teams are combined 1-4 over under so far this season. You might sneak a win for the Coyotes on the money line tomorrow night because I believe I'd have to double check, but I don't think Marc-Andre Fleury has missed a game yet, so they might go to their backup, who I'm assuming is still Malcolm Subban in Vegas. I don't even know. But could be a good spot for the Coyotes tomorrow night.
I'd just like to see some goals. Score some goals, guys. I mean, Phil Kessel, come on. We went and got you for a reason. Let's get rolling here.
Oh, you had to know Phil Kessel wasn't going to give a shit once he got there.
That's not what we hear in the media. So hopefully we can turn that around starting tomorrow night.
Okay. Some people are asking me today if there's any reason to get an Oilers futures ticket or get a Ducks futures ticket. I don't know. They started strong, but it's a long, long way to go yet.
Well, like I said, I did like, me and you discussed before, I did like the Oilers this year to be, the over-under was 3.5 on teams that are Canadian teams to make the playoffs. And I liked the over at 3.5 at plus 140. And my 4th team was Edmonton. I mean, Connor McDavid is unbelievable. His over-under for the season was 116 points. They had 2 guys on the team last year that had over 100 points, and they don't make the playoffs. I don't understand how that actually happens, except the goaltending's bad. It hasn't been so bad so far. It's early, very early, but I like Edmonton to keep rolling and playing tough this year, and I think they're going to get a lot of points. I think they'll be up there scoring and as one of the higher teams in the league. And again, I had them to be the 4th Canadian team to make the playoffs.
Connor McDavid's got 8 points through 3 games. So
I think that injury seems like that he did at the end of the season last year. He seems to be okay, huh?
Yeah, for sure. And James Neal, who they acquired from Calgary and scored 7 goals in 63 games for the Flames last year. James Neal has 6 goals in 3 games for the Edmonton Oilers. So that could be a huge pickup for them.
I'm rooting for them. They're one of my teams to go over 3.5.
All right, Harry. I think that's about everything we had scheduled to talk about today. Of course, you can find this podcast anywhere that you can find a podcast. Also on the Guys and Bets YouTube channel. Search Guys and Bets wherever you go to find podcasts. Obviously, you've made it this far, so if you didn't search it, somebody sent it to you. Make sure you like, subscribe, share, do all those good things. Harry, where can the fine people find you besides here with me every Wednesday?
At AAO Harry on Twitter. You can hear me today on Twitter as well. I was on Outkick the Coverage, Clay Travis's podcast radio show. And always on Against All Odds with Cousin Sal podcast on the Ringer Network, the Bill Simmons Ringer Network.
All right, and you can follow me on Twitter at Kris Oddshark. That's KrisOddsShark, or just over on Oddshark's Twitter at Oddshark.
And Kris, if I could, I just want to say thanks again to Oddshark and everybody there that went over to London for, and we did a bang up job, I think, with what we had. Everyone there who was there was great. We had a blast. Met new friends. So good times, man. Thank you.
It is. All the guys who came back to the office today, Harry said, you know, you were right about Harry. I said, what do you mean? They said he is just the nicest guy you could meet. Just friendly, personable, accommodating. I said, I told you he was a great guy. I was lucky. I get to hang out with you before they did.
Nice. Yeah, well, hey, just look out. Listen, just look out for the Alec. He's a wild man. Remember I said that.
Alec is a wild man. He's also a very talented man. And
he is great. He was great. I'm just teasing. He was great. Everybody was, it couldn't be more quieter, you know? He was great. He was awesome, though. Everybody was great.
Good stuff, Harry. Well, this has been fun. As always, we'll do it again next week. We'll see you Friday as well on Guys and Bets for Football Friday. And give you one last chance for a parting thought.
Perfect. Again, I think I'm just going to think about now. You know what? I might look a little deeper now into the soccer lines. Maybe I might start playing a little soccer now too. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but a couple of our guys went over there. They bet guys to score goals. They won, so I may look into that this weekend. Maybe I'll ask them for some advice.
More markets to bet is always a good thing. All right, you can find us also over at the website, oddshark.com. This has been Bald Bets and Beyond, brought to you by Oddshark. Thank you so much, Harry. Thank you so much to everybody who downloaded or watched the video. We'll see you all again next week.
Thanks, Kris.